We're going to be learning a lot about vindictive prosecution as a defense to have an indictment dismissed because of the Trump Department of Justice and them leaning on and pressuring U.S. attorneys and prosecutors to bring false claims against Donald Trump's political enemies or those that he wants to crush. And now on full display as to whether vindictive prosecution will work and should work is a new filing by Armando Abrego Garcia in his Tennessee criminal case, in which he points out that the Trump administration has a long history now of having prosecutors quit rather than do Donald Trump's bidding to bring false charges against people, including in the very office that charged Armando Abrego Garcia. And this type of argument, which I'll read to you from, that just got filed in front of Judge Crenshaw, should be able to be used by Leticia James, by Adam Schiff, by Lisa Cook, by anybody else that the Trump administration decides are going to threaten with a false indictment, a malicious prosecution, a vindictive prosecution. We're going to cover it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. All right. Armando Abrego Garcia was thrown on a plane in the middle of the night without due process and sent to El Salvador, thus starting his Kafkaesque nightmare. His lawyers found out that he was sent to El Salvador, to the torture prison of El Salvador, because and it was done illegally, as the United States Supreme Court recognized that Abrego Garcia had an order of non-removal to El Salvador, and he was working here legally. He should not have been put on that plane. He should not have been sent to CCOT. The United States Supreme Court, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals twice, and Judge Zinnes all ordered his return and that the Trump administration facilitate his return. Well, they didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep him there. They wanted to keep him and make an example out of him. And so they refused and flouted in a contumacious way the orders of the Supreme Court and of Judge Zinnes and of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Finally, when the pressure was too great on the Trump administration, they came up with some phony charges. They got an indictment issued in 3 weeks in Tennessee about a traffic stop 2 years ago during the Biden administration when there were 8 people in a car moving from job site to job site, and they accused Abrego Garcia of being a child smuggler, trafficker, and a human smuggler, and got an indictment. Now, what happened in that office is also the basis of the motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution, because there's not just one, but there's been 3 different prosecutors who have all resigned around the Trump administration's depraved policies. Ben Schaefer was the chief of the criminal division in Tennessee, in the Eastern District of Tennessee, and he resigned rather than bring the indictment against Abrego Garcia. In fact, he resigned the day the indictment was returned. Now, that didn't stop the U.S. attorney, the acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Tennessee, from turning a blind eye to all the abuse that was being heaped on Abrego Garcia and agreeing to seek that indictment, which he should not have, which is in violation of the Department of Justice manual and the principles of federal prosecution. The file was given as part of a charade to another agent who looked at it, who was not involved with the original stop 2 years ago, who interviewed none of the people from 2 years ago that were stopped along with Abrego Garcia by state police. Abrego Garcia wasn't even given a traffic ticket. He wasn't even given a moving citation, or even though he didn't have his driver's license that day. This guy looked at it, obviously told that he needed to find a case against Abrego Garcia. He signed off on it. It went up to the prosecutor's office. The head of the criminal division took one look at it and said, "No way," and quit rather than do that. But then they pressured the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District who brought the charges. For vindictive prosecution, you have to show that the prosecution was motivated by animus, not the animus of the individual prosecutor, as the Sixth Circuit case law says, but the animus can originate in the White House, in the Department of Justice. How many times did we see Abrego Garcia bashed time and time again by Kristi Noem, by Pam Bondi, calling him a monster, a predator. I mean, I'm going to show you 3 clips in a row. Pam Bondi attacking Abrego Garcia, calling him a monster. Kristi Noem, and then Tom Homan, of all things. Tom Homan attacked him, saying he'll never get let out. He's a criminal, he's a predator, he's a child sex trafficker, all of that. He'll never be let out. All lies, by the way. Now, Tom Homan has been accused of picking up bribe money, being caught in a $50,000 bribery sting. Let me show you the 3 clips in a row. Let's roll them.
Abrego Garcia has landed in the United States to face justice. On May 21st, a grand jury in the Middle District of Tennessee returned a sealed indictment charging Abrego Garcia with alien smuggling and conspiracy to commit alien smuggling in violation of Title 8 U.S.C. 1324. We want to thank President Bukele for agreeing to return Abrego Garcia to the United States. Our government presented El Salvador with an arrest warrant, and they agreed to return him to our country. We're grateful to President Bukele for agreeing to return him to our country to face these very serious charges. This is what American justice looks like. Upon completion of his sentence, we anticipate he will be returned to his home country of El Salvador.
And last but not least, that I'll highlight here individually today is we all remember the story of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 member. He was a human trafficker, a domestic abuser, a criminal illegal alien, and a national of El Salvador, and a member of MS-13. The mainstream media consistently tries to defend this individual as an innocent Maryland man, but I will be very clear, this man has a history and decades-long ties to a gang that has been convicted of human trafficking, and he himself has been deeply tied to those horrific charges and criminal activities. He's here in Nashville currently on federal charges for human trafficking, and the grand jury's indictment describes a monster. Abrego was a full-time human trafficker who would brutally abuse women under his control and even solicited individuals for child pornography.
We removed an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat, wife beater, designated terrorist from the United States. He's home. He's a citizen of El Salvador, a native El Salvador, who had due process, despite what you're hearing, been ordered removed by 2 separate immigration judges. The best that could happen for him if he actually gave back to the United States, he would be detained and removed again. I don't think any court can order another nation, a sovereign nation, to take a citizen national of their country in their custody and give him back to the U.S. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'll let DOJ argue this in court. But I think we removed a public safety threat, gang member, designated terrorist from the United States who have been ordered deported twice by a federal judge. I think I got plenty of due process. He got more due process than Lake and Riley got.
So now the lawyers for Abrego Garcia in this new filing, which I'll post on Legal AF Substack, here's how they characterize it. The executive branch cannot whitewash a vindictive and selective prosecution by running it through a prosecutor who turns a blind eye to the motivations that launched it. And this is hardly the only time the president has sought to use DOJ to get revenge. The U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia was forced from office for not vindictively charging New York's Attorney General Leticia James. In our case, the chief of the criminal division resigned rather than bring this vindictive prosecution himself. That the acting U.S. attorney for the Tennessee professed to believe that this case is a righteous one while claiming ignorance of its origins is no answer to our motion. It's a dodge. And they are demanding a hearing. They're demanding discovery about this particular issue, about the reasons for bringing the case. They then, of course, go through and cite all of the times that Mr. Abrego Garcia was attacked by the government, all the times that the government admitted that they only brought the lawsuit after he was ordered to be returned for violation of his civil rights and civil duties. Here's what they say on page 2. This is a vindictive prosecution regardless of the Eastern District of Tennessee U.S. Attorney's personal animus. Whatever animus he does or does not personally hold towards Mr. Abrego, on page 2 of their filing, does not control whether Mr. Abrego has been vindictively prosecuted. As Mr. Abrego explained in his motion, the investigation and prosecution of this case has been directed by the highest levels of the DOJ and Department of Homeland Security. It was Attorney General Bondi who announced the charges the day of Mr. Abrego arrived in this district less than 2 months ago. And it was a Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who admitted on television that the government began investigating Mr. Abrego only after the judge accused us of doing something wrong. When officials of the highest levels of government seek retribution, the government cannot insulate itself from a claim of vindictiveness by erecting a bulwark of feigned ignorance around a single prosecutor. This is all before Judge Crenshaw, the Article 3 federal judge in the, Eastern District, in the Middle District of Tennessee. And he's going to decide this on the briefing. My gut impression is that he's going to grant the discovery that's been requested. He wants more discovery on this issue to prepare an appropriate record. He's going to allow a hearing, a mini trial about vindictive prosecution. People from the government are going to have to testify. Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, others involved, I think, are going to have to take the stand. They're not going to be able to avoid it. And then Judge Crenshaw is going to make the decision. And this decision about vindictive prosecution is going to be closely watched by everyone who's on Donald Trump and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi's target list, because they are going to bring vindictive prosecution motions themselves. This was already a signal to Leticia James that you better do it. You should do it. You've had a prosecutor quit over not refusing to bring false charges. And I think these prosecutors should be brought, these former prosecutors should be brought before the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats at an oversight hearing to talk about the reasons that they quit. It's time to help the Democrats and the targets of these prosecutions with their cases the way the Republicans would. So Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett and Jared Moskowitz and Cory Booker and Senators Klobuchar and Schiff, especially, you should bring in these prosecutors to be heard by the American people under oath as to why their arms have been twisted, why they quit their jobs to bring malicious and vindictive prosecution, which is an automatic defense and will lead to the dismissal of these indictments. I think that should happen now, not later. I'll continue to follow it here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. And if you go over to Legal AF YouTube, hit the subscribe button, come over to Legal AF Substack, where I will post this order today. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.